Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Diamond Painting with Anxiety. I'm Karen. So it's Saturday and it's time for some Saturday stitches. I got quite a bit accomplished last week. Um, if you saw my video last week, I was struggling a bit because I was having some carpal tunnel pain. So what I found was as long as I didn't stitch for too long at a time, I could get some work done. So I did complete that. um I don't know what that is, like that square, that section. I don't even know what to call it, but it's all finished and looks pretty good. I still probably am going to do something about those gold French knots at the top. I'm struggling a little bit with those, so it's that floss is difficult to work with. I did a little bit over here, so I've started that square. I'm kind of skipping around. I've got the blue in and the red on the, started the red on the ribbon. And then I also have been working up here in this section with the snowflakes and the hearts. I really am loving the way that these snowflakes are turning out. That one's not completely finished. I've still got some work to do on that one. Did I finish one? I thought no, I guess I didn't finish either one of them. So that's kind of where I'm at. I have completed one of the hearts, got the other heart to work on, and again, that one right there finished. So I'm super excited. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Like I said, if I don't stitch for too long, it doesn't hurt me too much. I stitch for about 20 minutes, and then I'll take a break, do something else, and then come back. So this has been a lot of fun. So I thought today we would do a little bit of a stitch and chat. So I'm going to go get myself set up and I'll be right back. And I think we're going to work on that heart right up there. So I will see you in just a second. Okay, guys. So sometimes stuff happens, and this time it did. I came in here and I fully intended to record a stitch with me with, working on the heart up here like I had talked about. However, I recorded the entire second half of that video. It was about, 40 minutes long. Went to edit it and realized that the audio on that part of the video was so poor that there was no way I was going to be able to use it. So now we're going to work on the snowflake, and this will probably be a shorter whip and chat, I think, than what I had been doing before because, yeah, I don't know. Just kind of bummed out that, I got to redo this. But hey, stuff happens. So hopefully you've got something you're working on. Hopefully this works out and my audio's much better this time. And I'll get to put together a video. I'm struggling a little bit too with like camera angles and room in my room and stuff like that, but we're going to get through this. So yeah, here we go, working on the snowflake. So let's see, what was I talking about in the last video? So I actually was talking about how all my life I have really, really loved to craft. From the time I was a, pretty small kid, crafting was something that I loved to do. I grew up watching my maternal grandmother. We called her Pitty Poo. She was given that name by my cousin Danny, who was quite a bit older than me. When he was a kid, there was a kids' cartoon show on with a character that had a Native American sidekick. It might have been called Ranger Tex or something like that, if I remember kind of some of the family stories that I've been told for years. I'm not old enough to remember that show, but I have been told the stories. Um, but at any rate, that character was named Pity Poo, and he kind of hung that on my maternal grandmother, and she ended up stuck with that name throughout her life. Poor thing. We always called her Pity Poo. Towards the end of her life, she asked me one time, she said, Karen, don't you think you could just call me Grandma Florence? And I said, no, I don't think I could do that, Grandma. We would call her Grandma sometimes, but we called her Grandma Pity Poo. That's what we called her. At any rate, when I was a very young child, probably about 8 or 9, I would go to her house, and she had a sewing machine, and she would um, make quilts on her sewing machine. She made clothes sometimes too, but I think when her children were younger, she had 9 children. She was quite poor, so I think probably when her kids were younger, she did make most of their clothing. But by the time I came along, she liked to make quilts, and she would machine sew the blocks together. The blocks were always made out of recycled clothing. So she would take people's shirts and dresses and cut them into quilt blocks, and create quilts with those. And I grew up watching her do that. The backs of my pieces are always a hot mess, you guys. Again, this is about therapy. This is not necessarily it's when it comes to my cross stitching, this is pretty much amateur hour. This is my therapy. Anyway, I grew up watching her create those quilts, and I don't know where I ever saw it, because I don't remember that anybody in my family did any embroidery, but I always wanted to embroider. And when I was a kid, paper towels would come with, I've got to move my hoop. Sorry about this. Like I said, this is extremely like pieced together now. Not going as smoothly as I would have hoped, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll get through it. It's me. Amateur hour around here. But hang on. I lost my train of thought and what I was even talking about. I know it was about Grandma. Oh, paper towels. Paper towels, when I was a kid, would have borders on them that were, pretty fancy looking. And those borders would have like flowers or houses, or at the holidays they would have, like holiday shapes or whatever. And on the edges, top and bottom edges of the paper towels, they would, have that decoration. And I used to take my grandma's sewing thread and a needle, and I would embroider paper towels. And I was when I would do that, I was probably like, I don't know, 8 or 9. And so, and the only stitch I knew how to do, I think, was a straight stitch. Maybe quite possibly, I knew how to do, she taught me to do the running stitch, or the back stitch. We called it running stitch. So, but I don't really remember if I even knew how to do that. Just straight stitches. And I would sit for hours and embroider those paper towels, of all things. So one time when I was on a shopping trip with one of my aunts, she took me to some sort of, back in the day we called them variety stores. They were stores where, like the name says, you could get a variety of different goods. And I found a printed cross stitch piece. It wasn't even cross stitch, it was embroidery. Printed embroidered piece that was meant to be framed and put on a wall. And I think it had some doves and a Bible and a Bible verse and flowers, you know, typical embroidery piece. It was stamped cross stitch. And so I used my piggy bank money and I bought that for myself along with it wasn't a kit. I think I had to buy the floss separately. And I was so excited. And it was probably a Bucilla kit because that's what you would see quite commonly. And I bought that and used the diagrams and the explanation in the kit and started teaching myself some of the embroidery stitches. And I was probably like 11 or 12 when I bought that. It took me a long time to finish that piece, probably a couple of years. You know, I was a kid. I would work on it for a few minutes and throw it down. But what I actually did with that piece was I turned it into a fabric covered photo album for my grandma. It had a really fancy lace ruffle border on it, and it was pink. I remember that's what I covered the photo album in. It was absolutely hideous. I saw it after I became an adult, and it was awful, you guys. But again, that was made by a little kid for their grandmother, so she kept it throughout her life. And it had photos in it. So that was kind of my beginnings with my love of embroidery. And then I found these cross-stitched quilt tops, and love those. I think over the years I've made a couple of pillowcases. I think I've done a tablecloth. I have no idea where any of these things are today, but again, and some of them I don't think even ever got finished. But with crafting with me, I've always done it for the therapeutic value. Even when I was a little kid, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I was. I grew up in a, fairly dysfunctional home with a lot of alcohol abuse issues and substance abuse issues and things like that. Domestic violence, things like that went on when I was a kid. So I always needed things that would help me escape, and crafts of all kinds, always did that for me. So I think that quite possibly, there's a piece of fabric in my way. I think quite possibly one of the things that I want to kind of do with these Stitch With Me videos that I'm going to hopefully make on Saturdays is maybe talk about what my memories are with crafting when I was a kid, because my grandmother had crafts she did, my paternal grandmother, she had crafts that she did, and I think that I always just grew up, with seeing, the adults around me do those things, and just developed a lifelong love for working on handcrafts of all kinds. I've in 55 years, I've pretty much done it all. I've done ceramics, I've embroidered, I've cross-stitched, I've painted, I've built doll houses, I've done a little bit of scrapbooking. Never really got into that too much, but I did do a little bit of it. So, I have some pretty good memories of different crafting projects and how those impacted me over the years of my life. So I think that would be kind of, a fun topic to do on these Saturday videos. I would love to hear how you know, what crafting looked like in your life. I mean, did you craft when you were a kid? Is it something you've always loved to do? Is it something that you picked up after you were older? On my video last week, someone shared with me about watching, you know, their grandmothers and aunts quilt, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So those are wonderful memories that hopefully someday my grandkids will remember some of this stuff. So, you know, pretty important the way this can impact our lives. So I'm hopeful this weekend I will continue to work on this section of this quilt kind of throughout the day today. I do have some, you know, real life stuff that I need to take care of as well. Hang on a second, I need a sip of my coffee. But I hope to continue working on this section and get some good progress done by the end of the day. As I said when I was showing you guys the progress out at the table, what I did find this week was I could cross stitch and hold the hoop, because it's this hand that's has a carpal tunnel in it. So, and it's holding the hoop like this. I don't know, maybe there's a different way I can hold it, but I mean, I've held it like this all my life. So trying to find another way to do that is a bit difficult. But as long as I only cross stitch for, you know, about 20 minutes or so at a time, go do something else, it didn't bother me too much. I did cross stitch in the evenings for a few minutes each night, so I was able to make some progress that way. And then yesterday, which was August 14th, I believe, I ended up seeing online that it was World Cross Stitch Day. So of course, I had to spend the rest of my day, as far as my craft time went, working on this quilt. So that was really fun. I wish I'd realized it sooner, you know. Maybe could have done something fun with that for my channel, but I did make some progress on this quilt on World Cross Stitch Day, so that's really cool. I know that there were some events and stuff that went on, because like I said, I kind of saw that online, but you know, I don't know, it just is what it is. So I've decided, I think, I don't know, I could change my mind, but I've decided for right now to hold off on getting a Q-snap lap stand. We'll see how my hand holds up. And a lot of times this week when I stitch too, like all day yesterday, not only did I only stitch for 20 minutes at a time, but I also stitched with my brace on my hands, so I think that helped too. Today is my first time stitching without it, so hopefully I don't have pain later on today. But I'm going to kind of hold off and see how my hand holds up. And because I think I really want to get a Q-snap quilting stand, the floor stand. And those are about, I don't know, in the $95 range or so on Amazon. So they're pretty expensive. So I think maybe I'll either if I do decide that I'm going to need, you know, some kind of Q-snaps stand, I think I'll just go ahead and buy that, because I'm going to need it eventually when it comes to hand quilting this. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for now, but we'll see. I could change my mind. With the limited amount of space that I have right now, I really am trying to focus on not buying a whole lot of extra accessories or supplies for any of my crafts that, you know, are not absolutely needed, because, you know, just trying to find the space for those, particularly now that Wyatt's living here with me, it's a little bit tough. So I think I'm better off just kind of waiting. And if I do have to, you know, absolutely buy something so I don't have to hold this hoop, then probably I should just go for the floor stand, so that once I'm ready to start quilting this up, I can use that for that too. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, well, you guys, I think I'm gonna finish these 2 stitches off here, and I'm going to let you go. This definitely was not as long as the whip and chat that I recorded the first time, but I do have some other stuff I need to get done this weekend. Wyatt starts school on Monday, so pretty important I be organized and prepared for all of that. So not as long of a whip and chat. Hopefully the audio's better and I get to edit this and put this up. If you're seeing it, evidently it was. So hopefully that goes smoothly. But yeah, I've got some things to do today, so I don't think I can spare another 40 minutes. But that's okay, because like I said, some of the things that I was talking about was some of the memories I have of my family crafting and of my crafting when I was a kid growing up. So I can talk about that in other videos. So we'll come back to it. So I think I'm gonna, with that, I think I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. But I do want to remind you that we can change lives, in this case, 1 stitch at a time, even if it's just our own. Because when we start to change our lives, the entire world around us is going to change. So that's it for now, you guys. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. If you're a regular, thanks for coming back. I'd love to have you hit the like button on your way out. If you're not already subscribed, would love to have you do that as well. And that's it for Saturday Stitches. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon.